Accidental Talmudist wisdom you don't wanna miss. Ancient light that shines on today. All his life he'd break the rules, cause he never had the tools, till the Talmud grabbed him that great day, showed him the way. Accidental Talmudist wisdom you don't wanna miss. Now my pal Sal, take it away.
My guest today is Roz Rothstein, the creator of StandWithUs.com. And I don't think there's a more important organization today for Israel advocacy as it affects young people. It's an important conversation, and let's get into it. Hey, Roz. So can you get our audience caught up a little bit? What is your background? Where did you come from? How did you come to be here?
So I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm the daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors. And then my parents got divorced, and my mother actually remarried a 3rd Holocaust survivor. So I really, so that is a big part of what informs my life. I grew up in Bnei Akiva, which is also some of the wind beneath my wings, and very Zionist family and very Zionist friends and teachers and friends of my parents. So it was a very consolidated upbringing. And
I think our backgrounds are pretty similar. My mom was a survivor. My grandmother lived with us. She lost her husband, my grandfather, in the Holocaust. And so certainly I think we all share that feeling of we have to stand our post in this battle, that it should never happen again. So how did you come to create Stand With Us?
So I actually worked in the Jewish community my early professional life from the time I was 17. And, I helped to build the JCC's childcare, their camps, their day camps, their after-school program. And I did that for at least a decade. And from that, I gained a lot of administrative experience. But what's interesting about it is that when the Second Intifada began, I made an assumption that the Jewish community was going to get engaged in Hasbara, in explaining what was going on during the Second Intifada. This was because I had this background, this big background of being in the Jewish community. But when months went by, and I did not see the involvement or the plan or the strategy from the federations or from, the large organizations, it made me sad, but it was shocking to me that there was not an organization that was going to explain to the general population, to media, to students, to college students, what exactly is happening in Israel. And so we called an emergency meeting at our home, my husband and I, and Esther Renzer, a community member that I met as a result of my concern and her parallel concern. I didn't know her before that. And we had 50 people that showed up from every organization, including, Federation, Simon Wiesenthal, ADL, Board of Rabbis, rabbis from every denomination came. It was quite a meeting that May 21st, 2001. And I asked the question, is there a plan? Is there an effort? Is there a strategy being cooked? Is there anything? And unfortunately, everybody was mission driven, and their national organizations were mission driven, and this was not their mission. And so we were watching, murder in Israel of children on buses, suicide bombing, and there was nobody with a mission to explain the picture to people so that they could understand the history, the conflict, what was going on there, why Israel responded as it did. And so we took it on.
I mean, it's so interesting that you've got a community, that the Jewish community, that does not lack resources, does not lack will, does not lack ability, does not lack opportunity. There are so many organizations out there fighting the good fight in various ways. But what we don't see is that coordinated effort to communicate on behalf of the Jewish community in a way that can be heard and even be amplified. And that just seems to be missing. And we're at such a disadvantage compared to the other side.
Let me say that the organizations, each one is great. And
Yeah.
each one, as you say, they're dedicated. They're dedicated to their important mission. What I think I learned on May 21st, 2001, was that they really need to remain on their mission. And they didn't have extra funds laying around to create a new resource for the general public. So I understand it now, but I didn't understand it before then. And now I realize that every good organization literally stays on their mission. And so it's not a big surprise that this happened. So I understand it, I respect it, and there's nobody to be mad at all. It's just that it was lacking. And in many ways still is, but, I'm grateful that we saw the picture 22 years ago and the need, and that we jumped on it. What I didn't realize 22 years ago was that we were about to create an international organization operating on 6 continents, operating on campuses and high schools and middle schools and social media. I did not realize we were going to have a legal department. So I didn't know all that 22 years ago. But we evolved to meet the needs within our space.
It must have helped you that you were already working, I guess, in the nonprofit sector, in the Jewish community, and just had some sense of institution, because, I mean, what you've done and how you've grown it's not a garage operation. You needed to scale up and understand how to scale up.
I had the administrative background. I understand the Jewish community well. But it grew in some ways organically. So when we announced ourselves, students came to us. We didn't seek out college students. When we announced ourselves, people from Japan said, "Thank God, hello, you can count on us." It was quite extraordinary what happened the minute we opened our doors. Not knowing what our initial strategy would be, but knowing that we had a crisis in the making of a lack of understanding of, and imagine for a moment students who may not have had the background that they needed at the time to be able to have a rich conversation about Israel. They didn't have the background, but they had the will. Mm-hmm. And they really wanted to be able to respond to the lies on college campuses, and they wanted support. They needed so badly for outside organizations to come in and support them and lift them up and say, "We've got your back. Go ahead and confront the administration because we've got your back. Go ahead and complain about that student group because we will be here for you if everything turns against you."
Let me ask you something. Were you surprised when the university presidents appeared on television last month or 2 months ago and would not condemn, genocide of the Jewish people as something that violates the student codes at Harvard and Penn and MIT?
Was I surprised? I wasn't surprised that the cat got their tongues because had they been responding, there would have been no need for the meeting in the first place.
Right.
So, of course, they had not been doing anything to help students and to mitigate the campus climate. And here they are now having to say, to justify that they hadn't done their jobs. And so the whole thing was not a surprise in that, of course, they don't know what to say. They haven't done anything, so they can't, they have to justify between the lines why they've done nothing.
Right.
Our position is that, we don't need new rules. We don't need new rules. We need universities to enforce their existing rules. And so, was it a surprise? The gift keeps giving, actually, because what it has done is it has just emphasized and underscored what we have been concerned about for 22 years and what's escalated since October 7th. So we are grateful, I would say, rather than surprised.
Yeah, I've actually said, I've made a video called Thank You, Hamas supporters, for saying the quiet part out loud. Thank you for letting us know exactly where you stand. Thank you for revealing yourself. Because they were certainly saying the quiet part behind closed doors and in all manner of ways to harm us. Much better that the enemy should be exposed. I think a lot of people are having awakenings now, perhaps a little bit similar to the one I had in 2014. I was in Israel, in Jerusalem, when the Har Nof massacre happened, when 4 rabbis were murdered at morning prayers by 2 terrorists with hatchets. A 5th succumbed to his injuries later. And an Israeli Arab police officer was the first to respond, did his best. He succumbed to his injuries later. And another Israeli cop neutralized the terrorists. And I heard about it right away because I was scheduled to interview Shlomo Katz that day. And I mean, he heard minutes after it happened. And so we turned on the news, knowing what happened. And it took less than an hour, I think less than 40 minutes, for the headline to appear on the BBC, something like Israeli police or Israeli security forces shoot 2 Palestinians. That's the headline to describe that event. And CNN had something similar, and the mainstream media followed suit. And I thought, my God, I mean, it's just just that use of language that creates that's a nuanced difference that creates an outright lie. And you see it over and over and over again. And that's when I started to realize, no, the trusted media cannot be trusted. And the only way to find out what's really going on is to get multiple sources, trustworthy sources if you can find them, and otherwise triangulate the truth from everything that's going on. But you've been aware of that for a long time.
That's exactly right. That's exactly why we began 22 years ago. What you saw with that, two Palestinians, shot by Israeli police. I mean, what you saw there is exactly, you can just take that and apply it. That's exactly what we saw 22 years ago, and why, when Shalhevet Pass was murdered and Kobe Mandel and Yosef Ishron were murdered, and why the Sbarro Pizza and the Park Hotel, everything in the way that it was described. Sometimes initially we got some sympathy, but as the day wore on, as the day, everything gets twisted. And so, no, we need to stand up against this nonsense of, you're going to murder and then you're going to twist it.
Right. And then they'll make corrections, a week later, a couple weeks later, after the harm is done.
Right.
It's just amazing. And who would believe? Another complaint that we'll get, a criticism that we'll get is, well, what are you talking about that the mainstream media is against Israel? The mainstream media is owned by the Jews. That's a ridiculous story that you would tell,
Oops. Owned by the Jews. Yeah, that's a good one. So look, it is a movement in itself to correct media. You have often Stand With Us does this, Honest Reporting does it. Yeah. We fixed it for you, BBC. We fixed it, and then we'll cross out words like,
Gil Hoffman is the head of Honest Reporting, is my next podcast guest.
Oh. Good guy, good organization. And by the way, Honest Reporting, like Camera, were there when Stand With Us opened our doors. So, we had some excellent efforts on media, and we do some of it, but that's not our main focus. but we'll get involved, and social media will go after these guys.
So now let's talk about how you do what you do. How do you, on campus and beyond campus, how does the mission work?
So our mission is to support Israel through education and to combat anti-Semitism. So that is a dual mission, and it grew from the beginning. Nothing's changed for us. We have done this since day one, to support Israel through education and to combat anti-Semitism. And we do it together. We have 170 people working for us now, all around the world.
Wow.
We have a large force, a large team in Israel. Some of them are on reserve right now. We have a beautiful office with an auditorium in Jerusalem, where we greet students from all over the world and missions that come in for our presentations. And we just have a gorgeous high-tech office now, so we're welcoming everybody to come to us. And then and the likelihood then is greater that when they go back to their home cities, that they'll remain involved. But, there was a first, second, third in the history of Stand With Us. And one of the first things we began with, besides dealing with the Los Angeles Times and besides hosting rallies in Los Angeles that really drew quite a lot of people, I was shocked myself. We had 17,000 people, for example, in front of the federal building when the Park Hotel massacre happened.
That's a big crowd for that location, for
It was
sure. That's great.
It was a humongous crowd, 17,000 people. It went all the way down to the freeway. You know how it is with Veteran and Wilshire, and then all the way back to the freeway. It was really densely populated rally. And I was, again, grateful. I'm grateful that people come out to stand up for what's right, to stand up for the Jewish people and the state of Israel. So when we opened our doors, as I said earlier, college students came to us out of the blue, because in California, you were seeing a microcosm of what was going on in Canada and what was going on rough campuses around the country at the time, Rutgers at the time, Michigan. And students came to us and literally said these words: you would think that organizations would be falling over themselves to help us, and they're not. And we need help. Can you help us? At the time, we had no resources. We had nothing. We had maybe, $3,000 in the bank. So go help them. So, but we had to take it one step at a time. With anybody who supports anything, why would you support it? You have to understand the danger, and then you have to see the solution. If you understand the danger, and then you understand how let's say Stand With Us, in our case, can help, then you'll help. You'll become a partner in supporting Stand With Us. And over the years, we have collected thousands and thousands of partners who support our work. So what the kids did was very clever. After they literally cried in our little office that we had, that we were hiding above a FedEx office with no name on the door, because we also received threats from the beginning. We were told by the students, you have to see this for yourself. You have to see it. I said, no, I understand it. I understand what you're going through. I don't need to see it. When you tell it to me, no, Roz, you need to see it. So I agreed to go. I went to UC Irvine. I went to Cal State. I went to UCLA. I went to Northridge. I went to Riverside. I went to every single Long Beach. I went with them. And I saw for myself what felt like pre-1939. In the language, in the vehemence, in the disgusting, violent language, in the lies, in the shameless push to eliminate Zionism, in professors having a panel that's supposed to be balanced, with an Israeli and a Palestinian, yet, oh, alas, both are anti-Israel.
Right.
What I saw made me physically sick. I'll be honest with you. I had to take blood pressure medication for the first year of Stand With Us.
I'm sure it's very similar to what we're all seeing now in the wake of 10/7, except now it's a media story. Then it wasn't, right? Then you were getting no positive coverage.
We were getting a lot of pushback from organizations that were worried that our work was maybe going to make them look bad in some way because they hadn't addressed it. I begged many organizations to partner with us to confront this because we had no resources. At the time, we had no resources. We had to grow into this that we have now, a multi-million-dollar international organization that works on campuses and high schools and middle schools, social media, legal department, and everything else that we do. We had to grow into it, and it was painful growth because obviously when you have students complaining, you want to help them. And if you don't have resources, what are you going to do? So we had to set ourselves up similar to a school. We had to build a school, the equivalent of a school for our college work, the equivalent of a school. We had to open up for our high school work. And over time, the other organizations have joined us, and thankfully, I mean, I'm grateful. I remain grateful that even though it was a struggle to get going and to arrive at this moment where we have a huge platform, I'm grateful. Forget all the struggle. Forget the struggle. Here we are now, and we have a platform to be able to help students and teens in high school where, you know what, I got to say this. When we started our high school department, we would ask the kids, how many of you have experienced anti-Semitism at your schools? And share with your peers, share with all of us what's going on. A few kids would raise their hands. This was back in 2012 when we opened high school. A few kids here and there. Now ask the question. Ask the question at our conference of all the high school kids, and you will find that nearly 100% of these kids are raising their hands. Each one experiencing anti-Semitism in their school, and very serious stories, not small stories like somebody threw pennies at me. Okay, we get that too. Somebody threw pennies at me. No, the lights went out and somebody held me by force and drew a swastika on my arm.
My God. Today.
We are talking about serious stories. I was having lunch and they started throwing things at me because they said, "Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? You're Jewish? Okay." And then a bunch of kids start throwing things.
Because they're being told that we are some kind of apartheid oppressor Nazi. That's the most incredible reversal of all time. We are being accused of being Nazis. And coincidentally, in these big public schools where it's difficult to find the resources so that kids could take Spanish, who wants to take Spanish, they can take Arabic. There's plenty of resources for kids to learn Arabic in LA, in neighborhoods where it's not like there's Arabic speakers who live there. But the other side is funding education across the American public school system, and in the colleges, obviously, like unbelievable. These Middle East studies departments that are really Middle East propaganda departments. And in the absence of Stand With Us, I mean, the kids would just not have resources to educate themselves. So could you talk a little bit about a kid who wants to, use the Stand With Us resources? What does his journey look like?
Okay, so there would be, let's split it with two journeys. Let's say that they want to become an Emerson Fellow. Stand With Us hosts Emerson Fellowship, and it is a 1-year long program. We have a similar one in high school called the Kenneth Leventhal High School Internship. So let's focus on campus for a moment. So based on their leadership skills, they can apply to be an Emerson Fellow on their campus. Great for their resume, great for their leadership. And they will be brought to LA twice during the course of the year, one at the beginning of the year and one 3/4 way. Mm-hmm. And they will receive all kinds of training and information. If they're great already because they're leaders, they will be greater because we will help elevate them to the next level of their journey.
Meaning as public speakers, as people who are informed and capable and confident?
Sure. Let's say they're great, but they're not a good public speaker. We'll work with them on public speaking. Let's say that they are great. They understand all the issues. They can articulate them. They can write, but they've never built a committee to be able to grow on their campus. We will help them build on their campus. Let's say they need funding to bring a speaker to their campus. We will give them micro grants, or we will help them find funds from our partners. There are also different resources that we give that cover the full spectrum of topics so that they can have in their hands little, 10 things everybody should know about Israel, 10 things you should know about October 7th, the Hamas Charter, Israel 101, history and, gifts to the world. Whatever it is that the topic is, and we offer it in a variety of languages, by the way, and it's free.
Yeah, I want to just emphasize what you just said for people who might be listening to this podcast, because there's just a lot of kids who know they're Jewish, really did not grow up with any kind of Israel literacy, go to campus. Now they're being told, all kinds of horrific lies about this Nazi oppressive apartheid state that's connected with their tradition, and they don't know what the truth is. So just simple one-stop shopping, even if you're not going to end up being a fellow and a leader on campus, if you just want to know how to tell your roommate what the truth is about Israel, you go to standwithus.org.
.com.
Boom, it's easy. It's right. .com. Sorry. .com. And it's right there, right? Easy to find, easy to digest.
So look at the top of standwithus.com and then you'll see resources. So you go to resources and under there you'll find booklets and booklets on a full variety of topics, including IRA, for those of you who want to help promote the adoption of IRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. We cover, like I said, a variety of topics: anti-Semitism, the history of anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism from the left, anti-Semitism from the right, So every topic that you might want to look for more information, go deeper, become a bigger expert, even in your writing, you can find things there that will enhance your writing about these issues. So highly encouraged. These things are carefully put together, well-sourced, and you can rely on them. Now, just October 7th obviously changed the world in so many ways, and changed the Jewish world, and obviously changed Israel. We have materials on October 7th. I want to just make sure your audience also knows about our situation room. So it would be standwithus.com, all small letters, /situation room. And right there you can pick up all kinds of information to share with your friends. If you get on social media, I highly encourage everybody at every age to follow Stand With Us, because I'll tell you what happened since October 7th. Stand With Us platforms have gone like steroids. I mean,
I see you put up a post an hour later, you got 40,000 reactions on Instagram.
It's crazy, and I'll tell you why. It's trusted, it's current, it's relevant, it's what you can just pick up and use and trust. And so we have had well over 1 billion interactions only since October 7th. Yeah. And I'm grateful again. I'm so grateful because you can do a lot of work and then it doesn't get picked up. you can do a lot of work and nobody knows about it. It's a tree that fell in the forest. But here we are doing the work and pushing this information out and getting over 1 billion interactions. And it's growing. It grows every single day. So I'm grateful. I'm humbled by it. And I'm just encouraging everybody to jump on it and use it. It's free and it's a great way to educate your friends.
Yeah, and it's really well done. I mean, as somebody who has made, I don't know, if hundreds or thousands of memes, yours are very well done. You know, good artwork, good clarity, like you say, always well sourced, always accurate, right on the. You must have a huge team because it's always on the spot, like it's immediately after it happens.
Isn't that so cool? You think we have a huge team, like a huge team on social media. So what would you think a huge team looks like on social media?
I mean, it doesn't have to be enormous, but I'm thinking you must, in LA, you probably have 5-6 people at least, and then replicate that in other cities.
So no, our social media team is in Israel. We have one person in New York. We have one person in Arabic Walid does Arabic. And it's a growing platform. But we literally have 4, maybe 5 people total.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got good people. Good people, Roz.
We have amazing guru people.
Yeah, those are keepers.
Again, I am grateful, and they are keepers. And they love working for Stand With Us. We have a great culture, Sal. We have, people who come in and don't leave. It says a lot for our culture and the love for the mission and the love for one another. They really work well together. Our campus team, our high school team, we have teams and departments, and it just really functions very, very beautifully.
So let me ask you now, as I would say, as a general in this war, and you've been there on the front lines as a general for some time. I mean, you mentioned that obviously an important part of the mission is fighting anti-Semitism. So you, Roz, why do you believe anti-Semitism exists? Is this a war, of just a series of battles? There will never be won. Is there progress in the war? Are we actually slipping behind because the enemy is just so, has so much resources and so many people? Talk to me about anti-Semitism, how you see it.
So let me back into it by saying I am so proud of the Jewish people. Now, since October 7th, more than ever in my life. This has been painful for all of us. But I must say that I am grateful, and I am so proud to see how many people came out of the woodwork, stood up, said no. This is not, we are not going to tolerate this. Twisted Sister, did you see this post?
No.
Somebody asked, we're not going to take it. Na, 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 that song. Yeah. Someone in the IDF, I guess, posted it as the song. We're not going to take it. We will defend ourselves. We're not going to take it. So they asked the Twisted Sister people, is it okay with you that the IDF is using your song? And they said, hell yeah.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. Now, I'm backing into this anti-Semitism by saying, number one, thank you, Jews, and thank you, allies of Jews and allies of the State of Israel, for standing up now, because now more than ever, we need you. Anti-Semitism. I think we're cooked in that it's always going to be there. I think we just have to adapt and say no. One of the reasons we created our legal department is because we're not going to take it. And we are going to stand strong with our students and with faculty and on the issues of administrators who are weak and letting things fester like a cancer on their campuses. we're going to say no. And we need as many partners as we can get to stand strongly and firmly against this anti-Semitism. Do I feel hope? Absolutely. Absolutely. When Claudine Gay resigned, I feel hope. And she needed to. She needed to, because she couldn't answer properly. I don't know about her plagiarism and all that stuff. She could not answer on the spot properly because she could not justify how it has already been on that campus. She couldn't justify it, so she couldn't answer. I get it. But it's wrong. Right?
Yeah.
In a nutshell, we are going to continue to see manifestations of anti-Semitism. We just are. We're going to have to accept that, because you learn, you can judge the future by the past. We have too much material. We have seen the line of anti-Semitism drawn, and so we can predict that it will come and go. This is today's manifestation of anti-Semitism. What are we going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it. We're standing up against it. We will not tolerate it. We will stand up for our kids, with our kids, and we will teach them how to identify it. And we will teach corporations. We're going into corporations to teach them how to identify it. And this, critical race theory and whatever DEI, all of this stuff, sometimes you have to overcompensate in a society, in a movement, to be able to level off later. So some of this DEI and all of this stuff is an overcompensation, because there have been a lot of issues in our society with racism. Some overcompensation. Well, what happened? You're trying not to be racist, and instead you're going after the Jewish people or other groups, other minority groups. So an anti-racist movement, in its overcompensation, has now penalized other minorities? Really?
Yeah. Well, I would say that that Jew hatred within DEI is not a bug; it's a feature. It was baked in from the start. Sadly, because so much of that organizational, push across all the campuses, received instruction from the beginning that we're identifying oppressors, and Jews are oppressors. Israel's an oppressor. It was just part of their instruction manual from the beginning.
Right. But what I do see is other voices now. Again, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for other voices coming out and saying, hey, wait a second, you're trying not to be racist and you're being racist. The end result is you are penalizing minorities, including Jewish people. So that's not going to work. But, look, some people have convinced themselves that Jews are oppressors, and, and the state of Israel is an oppressive country. And they're just going to need to get more information than they're getting on TikTok.
Right. Exactly. I think it's funny. I post videos on TikTok, so I try to consume TikTok a little bit, just see how the métier works. And one thing that you'll see is that in the people who are live, doing live broadcasts and hosting others to come on and have discussions while 2 or 3 or 500 people are watching, there's tons of the voices saying this is the apartheid state, this is the oppressor state, they're murdering women and children. And I'm not seeing our side doing those live broadcasts, so that might be another wing that needs to be opened.
Yes, we're going to try to focus, for example, on TikTok in 2024. We need to elaborate our team. It's very, very badly needed. And so we're hoping to be able to get the resources to be able to add some people just to focus on TikTok. Badly needed, really badly needed, because, you've got the Gen Z who, counts on TikTok for information and the United Nations for information. So we've got a problem here, and it plays a role in anti-Semitism when you're getting 65% of your algorithm coming into new users of TikTok of a certain age group is anti-Israel.
Yeah, and it shows in that poll, right? That was recent. 18 to 24-year-olds are majority against Israel. They
Right.
do seem to get information as they get older, but we got to get
Somehow there's a miracle, but even hopefully with this generation, they'll even consume information outside of UN and TikTok and New York Times. Problematic.
So let me ask you. There are certainly a lot of young Jews. They're going to college, and they say, "I got good friends. They're involved. They've been recruited by Stand With Us, or they're going to stand with us. They're doing the fight. They're fighting the fight. I just want to get my degree. I just want to have fun. I don't want to get involved. I'm just keeping my nose low. I don't want to deal with those pro-Pally protesters." What do you say to that group?
Well, that group changed to a large extent. Many of them did on October 7th.
Okay.
For everything bad about October 7th, one of the interesting silver linings, if you will, is that it clarified, like you said, thank you, Hamas, for clarifying everything for us. It clarified a few things for people who were kind of on the fence or kind of trying to mind their own business and get through college. It pulled them in. The sheer numbers of students that are contacting us for help outside of our Emerson Fellows, we can't even, we're handling it. We're not dropping any balls. But our staff, it's not sustainable. This is not sustainable in the way that, we at Stand With Us are being, I'll use the word pressured for help on every level, whether it's the high school students or the college students. Right now is the moment that they need help. So between our campus and our high school and our legal teams, it has been relentless. And I say this in answer to your point about, I just want to go to school and get my degree. Okay, good luck with that when everything kind of changed and people are banging on windows, and making the Jewish community on campus feel very, very uncomfortable. How much can you not pay attention to that? Or professors who sign, when all these professors sign on to letters that right after October 7th, right after condemn Israel.
Immediately. That day, they were already saying it. It was unbelievable.
Right.
Just no...
I remember which university where all the faculty signed a letter on October 8th. I'm trying to remember. But one of the universities, maybe it was Berkeley, I can't remember, so don't quote me. Where faculty signed on October 8th an anti-Israel. So what does that say to a Jewish student who's just trying to get their degree? It is really a slap in the face. We just saw a massacre, a pogrom of 1,200 people and people decapitated and murdered in the worst ways. And then on
gleefully,
October,
the murderers were gleeful as they were doing it, proudly sharing their videos. It was just, I have a daughter at Columbia and a son spending the year learning in Jerusalem. And, on October 8th and 9th and 10th, who do you think we were more worried about? The one at Columbia. It was crazy. We were not really that worried. The security in the old city is wonderful. But at Columbia, she has been, emotionally, it's been terrible. Terrible. She has not been in physical danger. Some of her friends were. When the Jewish Center got surrounded there and people were banging on the glass, she had friends in there. But this idea of interrupting classes, of crossing, these picket lines that are truly mobs. I don't think there's been actual violence there.
The pulling down of the posters. Can you believe that one? Pulling down our story, our side of the story. Yeah.
Babies.
Yeah. So you're right, and please do tell your daughter about Stand With Us. We're here if she sees.
Oh, she's well aware. I think she wants. I would like her to take more of a leadership role, but she's certainly using your resources for the. Right. She's very involved in the small conversations. I mean, she lived on a freshman year. She lived in a single sex floor with other Orthodox girls, and so who lived on that floor? Orthodox Jewish girls and devout Muslim girls, and so they formed some friendships, and there's some she had a good friend, Palestinian, and that friendship is not a friendship right now. It's been so strained and so difficult, and she finally just approached the girl and said, I just want to talk, I just want to say hello. I hope your family's okay. She wasn't that receptive to it, but I think that those little conversations are so important.
Well, you would hope, and then they would say, sometimes they'll say there's no normalizing conversations with Zionist pigs. There's no normalization, but we have to continue trying. We have to continue trying to build bridges. So please do tell your daughter if she sees something or if she wants to get into a leadership role, she should contact us. What year is she in?
So she's a sophomore.
Okay. So there's still time. She can certainly join us for next year. She can apply right around April, I believe, for next year. So that would be something. And then we can support her all the way. We can support her and her friends in bigger ways. And we can support her right now. There's no problem. If she called us, we would support her. But we can support her programming and her leadership in bigger ways. You want to talk a little bit about what we should advise students in the minutes we have left?
Yes.
Because this is such a difficult time. The first thing that I would say to them is not to go it alone. It is more important than ever that they find their peers, people who think like they do or close to like they do, that they go to Hillel or to Chabad or contact Stand With Us, and we can tell them who on their campus is doing anything. There's SSI, there's AEPI, there are groups that are there.
What is SSI?
Students Supporting Israel.
Okay.
It's a group that has groups on campuses. And Stand With Us is available to give them guidance, and they should not go it alone at this time. Even if they're going to confront a teacher, even if they're going to, talk to the administration, we can advise them so it goes well, so they document, so that it can be meaningful in a month or two if they need support at that time. Then they have.
Let's take a sample case. So let's say, give me a scenario. So somebody's sitting in class and they hear a professor say what would come up, and then what, and how should they handle it?
In some form or another, it's all Israel's fault. Israel is the oppressor. Israel is the occupier. Israel is the colonizer. Israel is apartheid. Israel is every possible, thing. What I would advise as the first step is that they document what was said in writing, that they never confront the professor in the classroom.
That's interesting. Okay.
Too many times we have seen students be penalized with grade reprisals. What we do recommend is that the student ask for a few minutes with the professor after class. If you humiliate the professor in front of the classroom, there will be no end to that, whether you're right or wrong, or you have another alternative idea. It will never go well. Mm-hmm. The professor will get defensive. They will have to, justify everything they've said. So just save it for after, do a private conversation, develop a relationship with the professor, ask if you can bring alternative information, ask if you could bring a speaker that would present a different point of view, but not in public. Do not ask those questions in front of everybody. It's not going to work. Treat your professor the way you would want to be treated.
We'll assume that the professor is also a victim of this disinformation campaign that's been going on for decades.
Or not, or has an agenda.
Okay.
But even so, if somebody has an agenda, you're not going to go very far by humiliating them or pushing them against a wall. We have seen this too many times. So we have a publication, Know Your Rights. It's really important for students to understand their own rights. They will hear different points of view, but they should not be discriminated against. So they need to know what their rights are to start with. They may think something is normal when it's not. It's not at all normal. So we can help them with that, and we have literature on that. Know Your Rights. The IRA, an adoption of IRA, is an option for a school, for a university. It absolutely is. So should there be a campaign on that? Do they want to help spearhead a campaign? If there's a campaign on the part of a student group that is pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel, they might need strategy. They should contact us, and we can give them those ideas about what they can do, what's been done in the past. We now have 22 years of experience, and plus there's new things. There's new things all the time that they can do. So
there was that incident recently at Stanford, right? That professor, I think, told the Jews to get up and go stand in the corner so that they could feel, what he was suggesting others feel. So after something like that happens, what should students do? Document it, right?
So first you documented those students that were told to stand up and go into the corner. Take all your belongings and go into the corner, they were told. I believe they went straight to the administration. In this case, the administration was receptive, and I believe that male professor was put on leave, and they're doing an investigation. So the next step would be investigation. We have a few complaints, legal complaints, against a few universities that we have been part of. Those are Title VI. It may rise to the level of Title VI, or it may not. It may be a conversation with the administration. But in all cases, if it's a legal issue, they're going to need support. Again, don't go it alone. Give us a call, and we'll talk it through.
So that's very important. Don't go it alone, and actually reach out to Stand With Us. This is actually, it's not just get resources on a website. This is actually, they can call you and get counsel. So let me ask you, from your perch, go ahead.
At no cost.
And at no cost. So from your perch, I mean, you see what's going on for Jews at American universities. Would you say that some colleges are better places to be and some colleges are better places to avoid?
So I want to be careful about that. Parents ask us that all the time. We see things change year by year. So it depends really how many anti-Israel students there are that are organizing on a specific campus. In some years, Rutgers will be very active and anti-Israel. In other years, not. And it really depends on who's on that campus today. So I wouldn't say stay away from one particular campus. And plus, there is this other issue. We want our students to go to those campuses.
Right. We don't want Jude and Ryan, so they win.
Exactly. We don't want to give up the field. We want to be there. We want to make sure that Jews are welcome, and we want to work on it until they are welcome.
Good. Do you think that this climate right now, we're definitely seeing more Jews standing up for themselves. We're definitely seeing more Jew haters exposed. I feel a lot of love. I mean, when I'm posting about Israel, there's certainly a bunch of loudmouth trolls, but there are more allies who are coming out of the woodwork now. Do you feel like the sort of proportions are basically stable, or is there a change going on now?
I think that, as I said earlier, many, many people are coming out of the woodwork that I've never seen before in 22 years. Like suddenly there's a voice from over there. And again, I'm grateful for that. And I'll just tell you one quick thing, and that is that yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, there was a anti-Israel march and blockade put in New York, and traffic was stopped, and people had to go pick up their kids. And I will tell you that, and I expected this a long time ago, but it really hasn't crystallized as yet. We haven't heard the voice of, get out of here. What are you doing? But we heard that yesterday in New York.
Yeah.
And I expect to hear more and more of that as people rise up and say, get out of here. Stop with this. You're blocking us from getting to our children.
Yeah, I hope they keep up those protests. Those are great.
Yeah, they're making people. They're upsetting people.
They are engendering so much hatred against themselves and their cause by stopping freeways and bridges and traffic. What a stupid strategy. But yeah, keep it up, folks. Keep it up.
Yeah, you're really aggravating people. You're not getting new allies. You're aggravating. But I agree with you. I'm feeling a lot of love. Also, of course, there's a pushback and attacks against Jews. When you said thank you to Hamas, I just want to add this. Before October 7th, people said, oh, anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are two very different things.
Yeah, some will still make that claim.
I want to thank everybody that hates the Jews and hates the state of Israel for making it clear finally that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are one and the same. So thank you very much, because, going after somebody for wearing a kippah or a Jewish star, perfect, because you have made the case that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are one and the same. Thank you.
I mean, we've been praying for the restoration of Israel for thousands of years. Of course, it's inextricably wound up. I mean, when something happens in Israel, it's happening to not just our tribe; it's happening to our family. We are all tied together. We're one unit.
Families and friends who live in Israel. There are 50% of the Jewish population of the world lives in Israel. 50%. And then the rest of us either have friends or family or both living in Israel. So,
and it is because we will not commit genocide. We could easily wipe out this enemy and the entire threat very quickly with the Air Force or weapons of mass destruction. And we don't do that because we don't commit genocide. And it's because of that, for example, this morning at morning prayers, my friend Alan shared with me that his cousin was just killed in Gaza. Along with his Hevrusa, his study partner. They were both killed in a unit, getting these Hamas animals. And we are sacrificing our children to prosecute a just war against a maniacal enemy. And it's so important that the world knows that,
Yes, I saw 5 soldiers this morning. I saw a picture. I'm on Twitter, and I posted the picture of 5 soldiers who we lost. That the IDF.
The anti-tank missile. Maybe it's the same group.
It could be the same group. Take a look. Yeah. If you get on Twitter, take a look at mine. So you're right. I mean, we are completely connected, and that's the way it is. It's part of our identity. It's part of our Jewish identity is the state of Israel. That's where Judaism began, everybody. So, of course, we're going to feel connected to the state of Israel.
Roz, I really want to thank you for coming on the Accidental Talmudist podcast today and sharing your history and the history of StandWithUs.com. It's such an important resource. I really encourage everybody who is listening to this podcast to check it out. Even if you're familiar with it and you've seen their posts and you know what Stand With Us is and you think, well, I'm not a college student, I don't really need this. Yeah, you do. You need to. Everybody needs to increase their conflict literacy, their Israel literacy, the history literacy. Sometimes I find
let me just add,
please.
we need you out there to increase your engagement. So your literacy and your engagement. So if we can help you at all, write a letter to the editor, whatever, go to the website and just get fresh ideas.
Yeah, for sure. And I've done that. So thank you, Roz. May you be strengthened in this important work to 120. Keep up the good fight. Let us know how we at Accidental Talmudist can be an ally and a helper to you. We're down with the cause.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And thank you for, being another really important voice in supporting Israel and the Jewish people and fighting anti-Semitism.
Amen. All the best. And I'm going to sign off now.